Coo. Screw the rules. I got money.
You gotta love to be gone back yet. Love turns into time, don't you grab it. Ooga chaka chaka chaka, ooga chaka chaka chaka, ooga chaka chaka chaka. We're back. Ooga chaka chaka chaka, ooga.
I can't stop this feeling.
Ooga chaka chaka. We're here again.
Inside of me.
Ooga chaka chaka chaka, ooga
Girl,
chaka
you
chaka
just
chaka,
don't
ooga
realize
chaka chaka, ooga
what you
chaka
do to me.
chaka, chaka. Dr. Stone is here.
Are we doing the whole song?
No, we don't have to do the whole song. But
I just started singing, and just because, I remember that tune being catchy.
It is catchy. So we are here to talk about Dr. Stone, Chapter 86. Screw the rules. Money
Senku
exists.
has money.
So, what did you think about the introduction of capitalism? That fucking poor Tsukasa, while he's frozen in carbonite and dead. His fear about the world of materialism returning to dominate the pure, pristine, pure world is coming to fruition.
Yeah, I feel like Tsukasa would definitely not approve. This is where human greed starts, and all people. I just see it. I see the seeds of greed start to grow now, and it's at first everyone was working, sort of free of charge to for the betterment of the entire civilization, just because they felt like it, and also because Senku was the village leader. That was all the motivation they really needed. But now they have this money currency, and now people are going to get motivated by their own greed and money to assist Senku at work. Senku's saying there actually is a lot of use for money. The fact that he's just able to make these people who are already working for him work more?
Well, it's a really interesting and kind of fucked up question. And there's God, this is almost worth making a video on. The parallel, I mean, we need to see how it develops a little further. Because, in The Walking Dead, you want some Walking Dead, you don't mind Walking Dead comic spoilers?
Yeah, let's talk about Walking Dead spoilers. Okay, spoiler alert.
Okay, spoiler alert for the Walking Dead comic. In The Walking Dead, they introduced this community called the Commonwealth. And they're the biggest community we've ever seen, and they're the closest to rebuilding civilization as it once was. Okay. But with rebuilding, they basically have a class system where if you're in a position where you earn more money, you get better lodgings, you get better treatment, you have a better way of life, and the governor of the Commonwealth, or the leader of the Commonwealth, I forget if she's a senator or governor, she's this is how it has to be, this is the only way that we can recreate modern civilization, and because of that, they have sports leagues, they have concerts, they have all these amenities, they have restaurants, They have apartments, they have a security force that protects the zombies, and it's basically the closest thing we've ever seen in the post-apocalyptic world to old civilization, to normalcy. Wow. But at the same time, it's built on the sort of fucked up class system where, if you don't have a high skill set and can't meet it, then, you're kind of hated upon. And it's interesting because Michonne goes into it and she finds out that one of her daughters is still alive. So she becomes a lawyer in this new world. And she goes up higher into the class struggle, into the class system. And people start resenting her. And then there's a really fucked up thing where there's a police beating where some guy gets beaten to death by police officers, and then she has to defend them, and then that causes a riot. And then the whole conflict with Rick is Rick's society is a more egalitarian. Everyone works for each other. Everyone works to help the community. There's no money. There's no class. what are we gonna do? Are we gonna take over this society to get rid of the class system and bring them to our way of thinking? Are we gonna try and change it from leadership? And
Oh,
there's even
wow.
a guy like Dwight, the scarred guy, and he's like, we gotta kill them, we gotta take it over, we gotta show these people the right way.
Oh my God.
So
Oh
it's
wow.
a really
That's really
it's a
fascinating.
really interesting conflict. I hope Robert Kirkman doesn't make the people cartoonishly evil or have a super herd of zombies come and then they lose everything or some other stupid fucking bullshit that he his usual or Negan comes back and he runs everything. like all of his lazy crutches of storytelling that he always seems to rely on.
Well, that in itself is pretty interesting. I do wonder, like, I feel like there'd be a lot of conflict with going back to like a money system. Like people are gonna feel like they're disenfranchised. Like, oh,
So
I don't have enough money to spend on the ramen that Suika is selling, or or
that's
cotton
what's
candy.
really interesting about Dr. Stone. That Dr. Stone used to be this sort of we're just sciencing for the sake of science, and now currency is in it, and is that going to ruin everything? So far, it seems to be taking a positive-ish view, but we could already see a class system formulating. Mister,
Yeah.
Big Dick Energy. The minute he introduces money, he gets his girls to fan him while he sits around and eats drinks, and people are all jumping over themselves just so they can, fucking get this money so they can feel rich and buy ramen and cotton candy.
Yeah, like
And
this.
and to Senku, it's ooh, this is a way to peel power. We're gonna make hot air balloons. But it's a really interesting dynamic that I'm kind of curious to see if the series explores the darker side of creating a class system and a money economy. Is it a better way to pool people power? Which Senku's right now, it's taking a very pro-capitalist thing, and the idea of money is very interesting because inherently it has no value in the natural world. The fact that we put so much stock into it. It's funny. You get people. It's ha ha ha, you're just a stupid Jesus, FAG. You're just a stupid Jesus guy because you believe in stupid Sky Church and God, and you're such a dummy, dum dum. I believe in science. But it's well, you believe in the power of this green fucking paper, which, if I throw you in the fucking wild, what's this green paper gonna do? Is it gonna give you food? Are you you give the green paper to a tree? Or are you going to give the green paper to a bear to stop, prevent it from eating you?
It's a socially constructed way to survive in our society.
Yeah.
Uh, so if we're outside of that socially constructed, outside of that social construction, then money really doesn't have any real uses.
Yeah, it's this thing that we just have arbitrary faith in, and it's you can go to a godless person and say, "Oh, I don't believe anything." It's you believe in this green paper, you believe in this, and this is just based on faith as well, mutually assured faith.
I wish I could just flash out some money, but my wallet's so far away.
Well, here, I'm lucky.
I
I usually don't carry money in my pocket. And, we're beyond money. I believe in this stupid fucking cloud system that arbitrarily, but yeah. So is this, this gives me power because I could give this to make you do something.
Wait,
because
the
it's
bird or the money?
the bird or the money. Lucky, what do you think? To you, this is just a chew toy. This is just something you chew on, right? To you, it's tasty paper that you want because
But this is real power.
This is real power. This is the power of money. And to Senku, one thing I really liked about this chapter is I love how we're getting sub problems to lead up to the bigger problem. It's at first it was oh, we got to go to the new world to discover where the stone thing came from. Well, we gotta build a ship. Well, we gotta get someone who can who can run a ship. We gotta get oil to power the ship. We can't get the oil because Japan looks completely different. So now we gotta build a hot air balloon to do that. And that's Dr. Stone at its best, where it keeps on finding little, more divergent solutions to solve a bigger problem.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of cool that they want to make a hot air balloon, um, and like that the landscape of Japan really changed after, was it Mount Fuji that like
Yeah, Mount Fuji
erupted like,
exploded like 4 or 5 times.
yeah, so that was pretty interesting too. um I I mean, to me this whole chapter I just couldn't get over the whole Senku just like nonchalantly adding a money system to like this society that's
Well,
so early on that they
it's
all
really
need to be on the same page to help, with this all these scientific advances.
you think it like it's well, Senku's always like he's like one of those sort of like edgy but wholesome characters where like he's like I'm gonna do this evil edgy thing, but it's actually for a wholesome purpose.
Right.
But it is really interesting because like technically Senku doesn't make the money. It's the it's the Namine Ryusuke guy who makes it. Senku just approves of it as like a system, as a carrot to get people to do what he wants.
Right. So it's like, I guess that guy, he's like the the bank the bankers or something or
Yeah, well,
something.
it's really interesting. I want to see if like later on there's going to be like some stock market currency manipulation thing that like Senku does to like take power away from him.
Yeah, so everyone wants to do favors for him now, and I forget, how did Senku like turn the tables around him. He was like,
It was towards the end of the chapter, and he does something for like current. Oh, he says that like the money's going to be useless if we don't have oil to exchange for it. We need like a precious commodity.
oh, right. So then he gets people even more motivated to want to find the oil. So in a way, they want to both work for uh, the big dick energy guy and also Senku at the same time. I mean, yeah. So they gotta like how they gotta balance out like work free of charge with Senku and also uh, accumulating all this money that could
Yeah,
be used for oil.
yeah. It's. I'm very curious to see if like it takes a darker path and like Big Dick Energy uses his money to gain power over Senku and become like a new rival. It's interesting if he's going to become like Tsukasa 2.0,
Yeah.
where Tsukasa was like, this is the power of might and strength. Big Dick Energy's guys like, haha, I have currency. I'm gonna like pay you all.
Yeah. Oh man, it's too early to introduce this money system. I think it's just like, oh geez, things are gonna get complicated now. Things are gonna get way too out of hand. That's the thing that I got the most from this chapter. It's gonna be like, oh, it's gonna cause all sorts of problems now.
Well, I'm very curious. I love the fact that money was introduced to this world. I love the new complications it brings, the new ethical issues. So far, this is a very pro money chapter, and it was like very sort of kind of played it more gaggy, where it's like, hey, now we can I did love the gag panel where Suika and Tsukasa's sister are like, yay, we can sell shit for people. We can sell ramen and cotton candy. And then there's a guy who's just drawing manga.
Yeah. The
It's like
manga stand. That was great too.
that was great. I'm gonna make entertainment, and then there's a guy just looking at these shitty drawings, and he's like, entertainment is value for me. I thought that was really cute. But it's interesting to see, like, the more, how do you rebuild civilization? What does it look like? And these sort of questions of, like, what is, how does thing like currency work in a primitive world?
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty interesting. I hope it's explored a little bit more, like beyond like this chapter, because I think it's gonna have a lot more longer lasting uh, consequences.
Yeah, it was definitely a very interesting chapter, and it'll be interesting to see if like Doctor Stone plays it positively or if it takes it in a more darker direction.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure.
Because The Walking Dead is like a darker, where like to build civilization you have to have a class system, and all the fucked up things that leads to. Versus, Senku, where it's like money is a way to pull people to make hot air balloons to explore science. And it's funny when you
Yeah,
compare that to like the Star Trek universe, where like in the Star Trek universe, it's like a utopia and nobody, there's no money.
they don't have money in Star Trek
Yeah, you
universe.
didn't know that?
No,
Yeah,
I would
there's no
figure it
there's no
would.
money.
No, there's gotta be money.
Nope.
What the Ferengi? They're greedy motherfuckers. They got.
Well, remember the Ferengi are part of the Federation.
Oh, but but how do you buy drinks at a bar? How do
You,
I don't
you,
know.
you just go and ask for a drink and they give it to you for free. Star Trek is a communist utopia.
It's a communist utopia.
But that,
Oh
that,
my
that, that that
god.
does beg a question. Like in Star Trek, why the fuck would you be a bartender if you don't have to be?
I don't know.
Just like civic duty.
That's a great question. It's like there's always a bar at one of these
Yeah.
ships, right? Like, do they just get not paid anything? They just like do it for fun? Like, what's the point of being a bartender?
Assumingly on the ship they do it for fun, but in the scene where like the Star Trek movie where Kirk is at a bar on Earth, it's a good question. What does the bartender do it for fun? Is everything just on a merit? Do you just like do a shitty job just to have a purpose in your life? Because they only show us like the highfalutin Starfleet officers where it's like I'm doing this for my Starfleet career to have the best for in humanity. But Jean Luc Picard, isn't like oh I get $100,000 for commanding this vessel, so I could have a retirement fund. He's just like no, I want to do it for the betterment of humanity.
And yeah, so that's kind of interesting. What makes it what what makes officers like not want to quit out of like being like an dangerous like engineering job or something like that? Like, what's I don't know. Just it seems like there could be a lot of like loopholes that I mean things that could go wrong with like uh, a completely abolishing the whole.
Or
I
who
mean,
knows? Maybe the entire service class is run by holograms and we just don't know it yet. All bartenders are holograms. All McDonald's workers are holograms. All restaurateurs are holograms. All janitors are just holograms.
uh, really, jeez. I'm
That
looking it up right now. It's just like, but there is money does exist, but
outside of the Federation, but not in it.
right. So it's in a way the Federation's kind of like egalitarian,
Yeah, yeah,
like
they're
Senku's
totally
thing too.
egalitarian. They're like a ultimate, commie paradise. They're space commies.
Space commies. Well, I guess if technology has advanced as far as it has, where they can get unlimited food and drink with those like
Yeah, the food
you know,
processors.
food processors, then I mean they have almost everything they need, really. Um, well, that's interesting. I mean, sounds like it should be more complicated than that, but
Well, Star Trek is like it's Star Trek is about space adventures. It's not about what is the socioeconomic status of people in the Federation, and what is the poor class that doesn't want to go to college. What do they look like? Do people just sit at home playing video games while they live on their government mandated houses? Like how does that work?
well, this is this is interesting. These kinds of things are interesting to know. Like these can help apply to, the real world, and like why, one system is better or not so good, to our system. um,
Yeah, it's who knows? Maybe someone will make a Star Trek book or Star Trek series that deals with that. But yeah, so let's get to ratings. What do you think of this chapter?
um, it was, oh man, oh man, I want to be hopeful they keep on going with this whole, um like, going deeper with the implications of money. um but based on the ending of this chapter, I feel like, uh they're just going to go back to like more sciencey experiments and kind of ignore the whole thing
Yeah, it feels
after.
like we're gonna get like science experiments for like 2 or 3 chapters till they find the oil. Then they're gonna come back, and once they have the oil, that's when we'll get into like the deeper implications of what like everyone's gonna go get the oil, and then Senku's gonna like do a big thing to find the oil and extract the oil and make another sciencey thing. And then when he has the oil, then he comes back to find out that like Namine Ryusuke is basically a tyrant.
Right. I mean,
And then he'll have to use some science math stuff to like manipulate his currency. Because like
yeah,
technically, if they found it, then Ryusuke shouldn't be able to control the oil, but he wants the rights to the oil. He's like, if you find it, it's mine.
yeah, exactly. So I guess I'll give this chapter a 7.5. It's
What?
not
This
as,
was an entertaining fucking chapter. This
I
was like
mean,
8.5 material.
it and my rating could change because I want them to go back to, the whole class system with now adding money. I think that's going to be an important thing that Dr. Stone should tackle.
Well, it'll be really interesting to see, like, it's funny how you think that Dr. Stone and The Walking Dead have absolutely nothing in common with each other. But
No,
like
not at
now,
all.
now they're like the parallels are becoming a lot more apparent in the fact that like they're both stories about rebuilding. They're both stories that are now like talking about like what happens when you introduce the old class system of the old world pre-apocalypse, and one's much more lighthearted and one's much more serious and grim. And it's interesting to compare and contrast and see which one's doing a better job.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just like those, uh, different class systems, and seeing how they compete with each other is interesting. Like, what are the disadvantages and advantages to each system? So, maybe somewhere in between that is like the perfect ideal society. Who
Maybe,
knows?
yeah. Some people think that the perfect society will be like something where like everyone gets a standardized government living where everyone gets like $20,000 or $30,000 a year just for being a citizen, and that could help make a slightly more equal society where if you want to live a better life, you can go out and get it, but here's like something to cover your basic living expenses, and that'll help at least deal with extreme poverty. Well, some people say that that'll just turn things into a welfare state with like welfare moms with like 8 9 kids who just sit around and do nothing.
Yeah, but if everyone's getting distributed that kind of wealth, or is it just?
There's a few countries that use it. I think Sweden has that system, something similar to that system. But that's like some people think that like might have to become in the future like a standardized income that's just available to every citizen. And as like things become more automated, it feels like that's might become an inevitability.
But then, what would, if everyone's getting that same amount of money? What would be the point of money?
To get more money.
Right, but if everyone is getting distributed that kind of wealth,
Well,
uh,
$20,000 or $30,000 isn't that a year? Isn't that a lot? Isn't that much money? Not in today's world.
right? But I'm guessing what I'm trying to say is like, uh, distributing that to everybody is gonna, raise the price of things.
Yeah, it would probably increase taxes tremendously, and who knows? Maybe it would cause inflation, but that's a question for an economist, not me.
Yeah, but oh man, now I wish I knew more about this kind of stuff. But all right,
But
we're probably getting too deep on this right
well,
now.
we'll follow next week. We'll find out if we learn more about science or making it a hot air balloon or capitalism. Dr. Stone continues to still be interesting.
Through a shonen manga series is going to teach us what the best class system
Boichi is a genius. Only praise Boichi. Boichi is the path to enlightenment.
is. All right.
All right, so
What
I'm gonna
rating,
go
by the
for 8. I thought this was a very good chapter. I love the implications it means to the future. You still gonna stick with 7.5?
For now, because it's kind of like our first introduction with Gen. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit worried, like this is like such an extreme like tone difference of a character. But then the more and more I saw chapters of him, the more I appreciate that first introduction chapter with Gen.
Well, I like this guy better. I mean, I'm amazed how much I like quickly turned to appreciate Gen, but I like this guy's introduction so far much better than Gen. Because Gen seemed like he was going to turn it into like a battle manga, but then he became much more fun and interesting with his mentalist stuff. And
Yeah.
he's been a really good supporting character so far. I was pleased with how Gen was handled. And with this one, we'll have to wait and see if whatchamacallit, nominate Ryusuke like he leads to interesting story potential, or if he'll become like Tsukasa was in the beginning, which was kind of a disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually could become a villain. I mean, with being in control of money and currencies, something could be bound to happen that makes him end up being the bad guy, or maybe someone else with the bad guy when they acquire all the money or try to acquire all the money through illegal means or something like that.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be definitely an interesting few chapters. All right, so I think that finishes our thoughts. Thanks for hanging out with us and listening to us talk about Dr. Stone. And remember, lobster's antennas, but don't you grab it.